Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be going over the brand new palette from Alter Ego. This is their new Luster Charm pressed powder eyeshadow palette. I just received this in the mail a couple days ago and I wanted to go ahead and do a review since usually I do the Alter Ego palette reviews compared to what it's a dupe for. So if you guys didn't know, Alter Ego tends to make dupe palettes for high-end brands. They've been doing a lot of Natasha Denona lately, so I've been kind of comparing those against the actual Natasha Denona palettes and see how they compare because the price differences are huge. But this time they are duping a Pat McGrath palette, so that's kind of exciting that they're switching it up a bit, having some new things. This is a dupe for the Pat McGrath Divine Rose, which is one of their most popular palettes because it is the most neutral. I do have one of these on my eyes each, so you guys can guess in the comments which one you think is which, but I do think they look pretty similar. I'm going to be doing the demo in this video as well. But yeah, I was really happy they did this one since I have this palette. I was like, oh perfect, I can do a comparison and see how it is. Now Pat McGrath is really pricey. Pat McGrath is $125 for these palettes and Alter Ego is $22, so that's like almost $100 difference, which is insane. I will say Pat McGrath's formula though, she tends to have some really kind of fun special shades. Sometimes she has like multi-chrome shades, some really fun eye toppers in there, and she has a great formula, but I do think her price tag is a little ridiculous because I will say she has sales a lot. So I noticed that the Pat McGrath website is always running some sort of discount because I just feel like people don't want to pay that high of a price tag. I know Natasha Denona does it, but she also has some of those mid-tier palettes that are in the $65 range, because $125 for an eyeshadow palette is just, it's a lot. Not a lot of people want to spend that much, especially on something that's, you know, more neutral. Now, this is definitely my favorite Pat McGrath palette that I own. I have a few in my collection. The shades are just my kind of tones. I love these neutral purple tones. They did come out with a Divine Rose too, which I'm kind of curious about getting. It has a little bit more brighter pinks in there, so a little more colorful, but I'm waiting till that one kind of goes on sale. I did want to mention too, Pat McGrath is running a discount on their site right now. It's 30% off, $150, or if you spend less, I think it's 25% off, and this palette is included if you guys want to take advantage of that sale. But we are going to be comparing the Luster Charm to this one today. So this is what the Luster Charm looks like. This is the packaging, and here is the colors inside. Let me show you against the Pat. They do not line up exactly in the palette, but they do each have a dupe shade, so you can see they look very similar together there. Now my Pat McGrath does not have the eyeshadow names. I do want to do swatches for you guys so you can see them side by side. So we're going to go with the names of this one. We'll start with that and I'm going to do swatches for you. So the first shade in here is called Crystal. This one is a duochrome, so it's like a white gold with a red iridescence to it. This one does swatch on my finger a little bit chalky. So here is the Alter Ego compared to the Pat McGrath counterpart. There they are next to each other. Those two actually do look pretty similar. I'm very surprised Alter Ego was able to kind of dupe that duochrome finish. Next we have Spectral here. This is kind of a white gold. And here is the Pat. The Pat is a little bit brighter, but those two are pretty close. Next we have the opaque shade in the Alter Ego compared to Pat. Pat maybe is a tiny bit darker. Then we have the shade Sacred. This is one of the glitter toppers. And then here is the Pat version. I'm going to turn my brightness down a tinge so you can actually see the undertones. Sometimes it's hard to see with it so bright. Next shade is called Infinite. It's like a bronze. The Pat is just a little bit darker again. So I noticed with the Alter Ego, sometimes it takes a couple times to build up to the same color. Next is Radiant. This one I feel like is going to be different because it looks completely different in the pan. Yeah, those are a little bit different. The Pat McGrath's on the bottom, and it's a little bit lighter, and it shifts a little bit more, I feel like. Next is Mystic, which is one of the mattes. And this one definitely is different, and it was totally different on the eyes too. The Pat McGrath is a lot darker, and it has more gray undertones to it, while the Alter Ego one has more like pinky purpleness to it. Next is Spell. Those are pretty similar, I will say. And then we have Magnific, which this shade is my favorite in both of the palettes. This one I think they did a good job on of duping it. Very similar. And then the last shade is Rare, which again, the pat formula is just a little bit darker on the bottom again. I feel like that swatch kind of sucked. Alright, so those are the swatches compared to each other. Just a few slight differences. I wouldn't say they're like spot on, but they are very, very close. So now let's go ahead and get into the looks so we can see how close they are on the eyes, because sometimes things can look a lot closer when it's actually put on the eyes rather than just the swatches. Alright guys, so into the demo, I'm going to do Alter Ego on this side and we'll do Pat McGrath on this side. So we're going to go into the Luster Charm palette first, and the shade I'm going to take, of course, there's only really two mattes in here, so I'm going to take Mystic, which is this rosy mauve, and this is going to go into the crease. And I am going to build that up. It did create a light layer. So we are going to use this color here. I don't know the names, I'm sorry. They're always on like a little paper, but it's supposed to be the same color basically. As you can see with one dip, with the Pat McGrath you do get a lot more pigmentation. It took me about 3 times with the Alter Ego palette. But this one's more of a one and done, and that's basically why you pay the high price tag for this. I'm going to dip one more time into the Alter Ego side, but I just noticed a very slight difference in the color here. This one seems a little bit more, like it has more gray in it, and this one has a little bit more pink to it. Next we're going to take Rare, which is this really warm brown from the Alter Ego palette, and we're going to put this on the outer corner. That shade actually blends really nicely. It's very pretty. I'm going to add just a little bit more. And then with the Pat McGrath, we'll go into the dupe shade. As you can see, again, this just places down a lot more color, but it actually takes a little bit more blending because it does place so much color, so you want to make sure you're getting it diffused. The Pat McGrath is just, it's coming off a lot darker. This one seems like it has more pinky red like undertones to it, so it's actually a little bit hard for me to replicate the look exactly. But we are going to try our best. I'm going to try and deepen that up, but I think the Pat McGrath side is just definitely going to look darker for sure. We're going to take Magnetic. This is my favorite color in my Pat McGrath palette on the lid. Very pretty. I have just a little bit of fallout here on my eye. And then Pat McGrath, we're going to go in with this color. Yeah, Alter Ego did a really good job with that shade. I would say that's pretty spot on. Now that we added the shimmer, they're starting to look more alike. I am going to use this topper shade. I know these probably aren't a dupe, but I'm going to go in with my finger into this shade called Sacred and put that on top. Ooh, that's beautiful. Love it. Has so much shimmer to it. All right, this one. Ooh, that's pretty close. I'm impressed. I think the Alter Ego has a little bit more golden to it, like more champagne, while this one's more of a topper. So the color is a little bit more see-through under here, which I kind of like a little bit better, that it doesn't take over what you put down. So they are slightly different, but I think Alter Ego did a pretty decent job replicating it. Next, I'm taking Opaque, and this is going on the lower lash line. And then we'll use this one in the Pat. All right, so here is the eyes up close. What do you guys think? I was a little bit nervous at first because the differences seemed a little more dramatic, especially with the matte shades. But I think once it's all together, it looks pretty dang similar. This side looks more gold though, and this side looks more silver undertone. It's like that topper shade was not a quite like exact dupe, but overall both eyes, like I don't think you would be able to tell very much that I have two eyeshadow palettes on. Yeah, this side just looks more golden. So I don't know, looks pretty similar. Let me go ahead, put the rest of my makeup on, and we'll get into my final thoughts. All right, so for my final thoughts, as you guys can see from testing everything, I would say this one, it's pretty close color-wise. So if you guys really love this color story, but you don't want to pay the $125 for the Pat, I think it is worth picking this one up. I'm really happy that my favorite shade is so close in the palettes. That Magnific shade is so beautiful. There is just some slight differences in color, but essentially I feel like both eyes look pretty similar. Just some tones, maybe undertones that are a little bit different. Formula-wise, I will say, again, I always say this with the Alter Ego videos, but these do take a couple times to build up to the same pigmentation as Pat Mcgrath. Her shades have that very high pigmented formula, but I will say they're not as easy to blend. So that is one of the downfalls with this. You kind of have to start off with just a little product and go in, and I got way too much. So I feel like my eye got a little bit dark in the outer corner, and then I couldn't blend it out as well as these, since you can build these up, but sometimes I'm in a hurry. I don't want to take so much time with my eyeshadow. This is a lot easier to work with. That's the same for when I compared it to the Natasha Denona. And obviously the packaging on this is a lot better quality. This is like heavy duty plastic casing. It's very beautiful, while this is just like cardboard packaging, but I do think they did a nice job with the design. It's very pretty. They always do nice designs on their packaging. But yeah, I'm actually very impressed with this one. I was a little bit worried at first, as I mentioned, the looks weren't coming out the same with the mattes. They have some pretty big color differences there, but once everything was all on and the look was completed, I do feel like they look the same. So I really enjoy this new luster palette. I think it is worth trying, especially if you don't have this Pat Mcgrath one. I love this color story. It's so beautiful with these light rosy purple tones. One of my favorites from Pat Mcgrath. I do have a discount code with Alter Ego if you guys want to snag this palette with 10% off. I'll leave it down below if it's something that you're interested in. I know with dupe palettes, they can be hit or miss with others because, you know, yes, Pat Mcgrath did create this color story, and it kind of sucks that Alter Ego does take that from them, but there's just so many people that can't afford $125 for an eyeshadow palette. It is ridiculous. I get it. So I think, I don't know, Alter Ego does a really good job for the price of their palettes. They're great quality in my opinion. If I would compare them to anything in my collection, I would say Alter Ego's around kind of the same quality as like BH Cosmetics. If you guys are used to their shadows, they have really nice like pigmented eyeshadows that blend really well. That is what I would compare their formula to. But yeah, I hope this video was helpful in comparing these palettes and seeing if it is something you're interested in. Like I said, I love this color story, whether you do get it in the Alter Ego or even the Pat Mcgrath. I'm keeping both in my collection. I love to keep them for comparison purposes, and the Pat Mcgrath is on sale right now too if you do want to save a little bit. I'll have both linked down below, but that is it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye guys.